Hey everyone, I was hoping to get this message put together sooner, but things like this unfortunately take time to set up. I just want to say that the acts of war against Ukraine break my heart, and I know as a prior service member myself that my thoughts and prayers go out to everyone who's fighting the fight that they really shouldn't have to. That being said, we have been working behind the scenes with all of our podcasts and podcast partners to put a fund together in order to pay for any refugee housing and other needs that go alongside that, like food, water, and any clothing needs. Internally, many podcasts in the Hospitality FM network have voluntarily given up sponsorship money in order to donate to the cause and are working on a unified message in order to spread throughout all of our podcasts. So, this is me calling out to all of our property manager friends, industry experts, and anyone knowing of those providing lodging for Ukrainian refugees seeking safety. You can contact me directly at will with one L, WIL at slicktalkmedia.com. We have an internal document that is being updated in real time. So if anyone could share this message within your network, we'd greatly appreciate it. I'm also placing in the show notes a link to our GoFundMe and landing page for Rentals to Rescue. That's rentalstorescue.com, where we're putting funds together in order to, again, provide finances for any of these lodging and relocation needs. So thank you so much for tuning into this quick message. I hope you guys are all well and safe, as I know we have tons of listeners in Ukraine and other countries in Europe. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. How are you?
We made it to another Monday, baby. Another Monday.
More will follow. Believe me.
More will follow. I love it. I love it. How are you guys doing? How's the week? How's the weekend? Everything going good in the Alabama, and then we got Krakow. So two completely opposite places in the world, but
no, here's 35 degrees Celsius, super warm. I wish. No, it was an interesting weekend. Saturday I tried to spend some time with the family. Sunday was just working. It's a busy period, a lot of things to do, but still, I love working, so that's not too bad still.
Yeah, I feel it.
It is about 20 degrees here, so Celsius. So we're feeling good. Spring has finally come. Flowers are starting to bloom. All the signs of spring, except for the people running around the neighborhoods.
I was gonna say, I could tell you're a little bit better mood, except for you're probably not outside. So I guess we'll change that after this. Go get some more coffee and enjoy the flowers. Yeah, cheers. So sweet. Yeah, we got a lot to cover today, and this week we're really gonna dive into UK. There's been, I think not a lot to cover until recently because of, all the lockdowns and just the lack of travel to the UK, but I'm really excited. So that'll be a good topic, but I want to lead us in. If you guys don't have anything else to bring up for a quick intro, bring in What's with the Noise and have Mr. Golden take it away. Sound good?
That works.
All right, let's do it.
Good morning. The long-awaited first earnings call of Airbnb has now happened, and there's some kind of mixed signs. They beat the revenue projections by nearly $100 million, which caused the stock price to jump a good bit on the day it was announced. But they had nearly a $4 billion gross booking value drop year over year. So that's a 31% drop, I believe. Now, the other positive sign that came out of that was 95% of their traffic was not paid. So now they know they don't need to spend billions and billions of dollars on traffic because most of their visits are organic or repeat. and they've doubled down nearly on PR and television ads. So I've started to see some continuous TV ads here in the US for Airbnb. I guess it's a better way to spend the money than through Google. So some mixed signs from the first earnings call. I guess any favorable signs mid-pandemic is a good sign. So we can kind of chalk that up as a win. But good to see that Airbnb is now publicly sharing their numbers, and we can all kind of see where the industry is and can use that as our guiding star.
Good morning. This week we have a special episode, so there will be no startup because there's literally no time for it. Because we have a special guest, is my colleague and also involved in iMeet Hotel. So Christian will actually tell you more about the learnings. We had a great session last week. It was the online version. As many people know, we organizing iMeet Hotel multiple times per year. Before COVID, always in different places all over the world, but now we moved to online. So Christian, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for the introduction. And thanks, Will and Michael. Nice to see you today. I got to say, thanks a lot for all the listeners. iMeet Hotel Destination UK happened last week, and we learned a few different things from the event. Now, between Zoom and LinkedIn, we had over 600 registrants and attendees from 50 different countries. So the majority of the UK, but we had Japan, Ecuador, South Africa, Greece, nice global audience. Now, what we learned from the talks, and I'll just give you some brief points as we can talk a little bit more about it later, but we see that occupancy rates in 2021 are forecasted, this is in the UK, to be 55%. Now, it was 20 to 38% in 2020, and it could take, what they're forecasting is maybe up to 4 years to return to those pre-COVID-19 levels of 2019. Now, to give you a little bit of an example, what kind of price and what that cost, one of our speakers was the interim CEO of Visit Bath, and she pointed out that the West of England in 2019, there was $2.3 billion in total visitors spent. And that's 45,000 tourism-related jobs, or 8% of the employment. So you can imagine, 3 to 4 years before we get back to that point, or the UK for that matter. Now, like I said, return to 2019 levels in real terms, not looking likely until mid-2023 or 24. But there's optimism on the other side of it. As we see, the UK is increasing the vaccination program, and I believe it's about 30% of people there have gotten the vaccination, and that has led into a lot of announcements coming out of the UK about when things are going to open up again. Now, because of those announcements from the UK government, there's been a 600% increase in flights and bookings. So you can see a lot of domestic travel is going to start happening again, especially at this point. If you're looking at 600%, I mean, it's not a lot compared to what it was in 2019. However, comparing it to last year, that's a real bump, meaning that it's time to start preparing your properties in the UK. Now, a common theme that we had throughout the talks was that now that you have no or low occupancy rates, this is time to revisit your operations foundations. So take the time to really analyze the hotel technologies. And the other thing is, don't forget about your employees. Offer professional development through this time so they're able to grow within the hotel. And that's it for me for the Bidruption report.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you, Christian. We're going to keep you on because I think there's a lot of good information covered in that. And I love the part that you talked about, this is the time to work on your systems and, of course, do professional development for your employees and your team, because in the beginning, like back in March and April of last year, 2020, that this was the thing that a lot of people were kind of, scrambling and trying to be like, all right, how the hell do we save our company? How do we save our business? Whether it's a hotel, vacation rental, whatever. I think a lot of people in every industry were kind of figuring that out. But then like slowly, I would say maybe a month or two, people are like, all right, this is where we need to refine and iron out these kinks that we've had, prior to, because like you said, 2019, we had high levels of travel. Like we had a great, I think, travel and share economy. And obviously now.
Yeah, but at that point, you have no time to take a look at those systems.
Exactly.
You got the people coming in and out, so you have this opportunity to take a look at that.
We have a saying in the South: "Why fix what ain't broke, or don't fix what ain't broke." And travel in 2019 was just firing on all cylinders. So why change? Why spend the time and the money to do things differently? But people have certainly had the time, maybe not so much the money, but it's time to look at the money and see where you can get efficiencies.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm going to ask two questions, one to Golden and then, of course, one to Ross and Mr. Lipinski here is Golden. So what are things that short-term rentals are doing in order to really iron out these kinks if it ain't broke? But now that they have time, they're probably not as fully occupied as compared, but they're still in that breathing room where they can have maybe a couple of days between guests and they're not having the craziest turnover. What are some things that maybe you guys have been seeing with Noise Aware and just like your overall perspective on short-term rentals? What have they been doing to really iron out?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of people change their PMS during the past year. I think a lot of folks buy a PMS without knowing where they're going to be in a year, 2 years, 5 years, and it doesn't fit them down the road. So to that point, like they didn't have time to switch previously, and now they do. That's number one. Number two is pricing tools. Obviously, a lot of pricing algorithms have been cattywampus throughout this past year. It's tough to do modeling when there's not much to model off of.
Yeah.
But it is a good time to set it up, and revenue managers can be quite expensive. So leveraging technology to help that cost during the pandemic can help. And then it's running into things that they haven't had issues with before. So upping the cleaning game and the operations on cleaning. Mm-hmm. And then shamelessly, like noise and parties have been a problem in short-term rentals during the pandemic because bars and restaurants and nightclubs are closed. So we've seen a really strong uptick at Noise Aware of our technology as well. So it's leveraging changes that were kind of kicked down the road, and then also pulling in technology that is now needed even more so.
Yeah, because a lot of times, like hosts, were probably just going off of their gut on when it comes to like inquiries. I'm like, oh, they have a couple of reviews on Airbnb. They have a nice profile picture. They look like they're very nice. Let's go ahead and let them stay. And then all of a sudden,
just take whatever you can get. I mean,
True.
We saw a lot of that last summer. Thank God we have bookings. I don't care if it's 15 people that live 2 miles away.
Yeah,
well, that's a big red flag for short-term rentals, right?
Yeah.
You don't take a local booking of 20-year-olds that live 2 miles away.
True.
But yeah, it was a bit of desperation, but also a bit of like change in traveler behavior. Those groups of kids can't go to the nightclubs, and instead they're going to markets that they've never gone to before, and having fun. They're going up into the mountains, or they're going down to like the sleepy beach towns and raising hell.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Well, I think that's pretty cool. It's nice to see the professionalism, people taking the time during this, slower season to really start professionalizing their ops, and especially when it comes to cleaning. It's kind of cool. I was talking to a couple people like with Hostfully and Breezeway, and talking about how in 2020, their industry report was mostly focusing on cleanliness, quality control, all these things. That's what customers and guests were looking for, and not so much rate. And now, as we're getting into a couple of months of 2020 here, well, a couple of months, 3 months of 2020 or 2021, sorry, that we're seeing that the cleaning and quality control isn't like the number one thing that they're looking for, but rates kind of rising. And I think it's because that standard has finally been set, that we can't operate at these cleanliness standards that hotels meet. And so now we're seeing like that shift. Okay, like we've set the new bar and the professionalism on that aspect, and now it's kind of shifting back towards now people are more sensitive to rate now, knowing that we can execute on that. So it's pretty interesting to see the data shift. Christian and Michael, What are some things you guys are seeing on the hotel side? What are operations looking like now that people have had time where they're getting no occupancy, or they're at 10, 12, 15, maybe even 30 sometimes, depend on openness of regulation?
I want to comment on the rates because it is really important. That's what the hotels are also looking into. Okay, we want to sell, of course, we want to sell the rooms now, but yet how can I earn more in the same bookings? And that's actually what we see. I noticed already, and I shared this before, with a huge growth in numbers of hotels who joined us last year. And I think hotels more than ever looking at new distribution channels. Also, Christian just mentioned this, and also came back actually at last week. So you see a lot of hotels looking at, okay, how can I just make sure that my distribution landscape is more fair, right? Before maybe 40, 50% of the reservations came by OTAs, expensive OTAs. So they're looking, okay, how can I increase direct reservations? The change looking, how can I use my loyalty program? How can, in this case, can other distribution channels like Bidroom with a different business model actually helping us to recover? And you see, to combine this actually, of course, with the business model which we have, you can see also a trend, and also came back last week, that subscriptions, for example, and I know you often call me the Elon Musk of subscriptions in travel, and this is true, right? You just see that more and more things popping up, right? You see TripAdvisor Plus, Citizen of course, we are out there for the while, so you see more and more subscriptions coming in the industry, and I think it's just a start. And I said as well, I had to believe a few years ago already, when there was a rise of subscriptions, and then especially in entertainment or in the music industry, etc. Okay, there will be a time this will come in travel. It's just obvious. Commission structure is, I think, in my opinion, temporarily, because in this case it's unfair often as well. And now you can see it's rising, it's growing. I think Skiff mentioned this as the new big thing in travel subscription. So it is, I think, a combination of new business models which are appearing, right? It's pretty obvious, and I don't know what the business model of Noiseverse, but often is licensing fees, SaaS models. It's popular for a while in B2B. And you see it now moving as well to B2C or B2B2C. So you see it's getting more common to pay a monthly fee to get access to something. It's creating a different relationship, and also much more sustainable. As you can see, you've got recurring income, etc. So I think what we really see as well in the trends, and what you see as well last week, what coming back is, okay, how can we make sure that we are kind of safe in a situation like this, but also in a hotel, if the recovery is starting, how can we make sure that at the end we just have the best revenue out there? And maybe your occupancy is not 80%, or maybe 60%. Maybe the 60% and paying less commissions, you might have almost the same revenue. And I think what you see that hotels are doing now, how can they really optimize revenue? There's more revenue systems out there. So how can they make sure that if it comes back, most of the income actually goes to me and not to third-party distribution or to distribution channels?
Yeah, I guess I'll kind of follow up on that. We had Adam Walsh on the program last week, and he's the regional manager for Europe at STA. And what he talked about was the distribution channels. So, you have the big guys there, obviously, but giving yourself more opportunities, more distribution channels, as long as it works with the systems that you got, you have nothing to lose there. So giving yourself more visibility, you get these meta searches where you can go through and see all the different hotels in Rome, Poland, doesn't matter where it is. And then you can say, okay, Hotel Christian Lipinski, I want to see that place. And then I go to hotelchristianlipinski.com and I want to see more about that hotel. So by putting yourself out there in all these different channels, it's giving you a lot of visibility. But secondly, how do you grab those people once they go to hotelchristianlipinski.com? And that's, I think, what Michael's talking about as well, is by adding those additional things that you can get direct bookings from, late checkout or, free parking, whatever it may be. But, being able to have all those different venues that you can go through.
Yeah.
Well, it's also to keep investing in the relationship, right? So in this case, when you just can do something to rebook in your same property, right? But giving something extras and to have a great customer journey. It is okay. I just had a great stay in there. I need another break with my family. I went there a few months ago. I go back to the same place and I booked to them directly because the host was super nice, or I had a great experience in there, or they gave me an upgrade, or they gave me etc. And these are small things what also in property can do, right? And I think it doesn't matter if it's a vacation rental or alternative accommodation. When the experience is good, they can maintain a relationship. And of course, it's more difficult to book on a vacation rental on a direct basis because many of the apartment doesn't have an own website. But if you look at the hotel space in this case, you see that it makes sense, right, to book directly. And yes, as mentioned before, we have something in between. So hotels our users still book directly, but we facilitate in the interface or the technology between it. But at the end, if somebody books directly, I think it's fair, right? And soon when you're just using maybe like different channels or OTAs or meta search, whatever, to make your search and book directly, I think it's great. And especially also and even though maybe not the first time, maybe the first time you're using an OTA, but there's a OTA as well. Make sure that the second time when the customer is happy, he books you directly, right? So this is also what came back, like, okay, what again we can do to make, of course, when the occupancy is growing a bit, it will still probably not be as high as years before. But even though it's growing, how can we make sure that we have a good revenue from it?
Well, my question to all of you, I guess, would be, because this is something we talk about all the time, whether it's here, Slick Talk, Clubhouse, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, is at least on the short-term rental side, especially as a manager myself, like building a short-term rental management brand isn't hard, but it's harder because the OTAs really don't give you any type of access or ability. Like when I go on booking.com or Expedia and I type in hotels in Seaside, Oregon, I see all the names of the hotels, whether it's IHG, whether, you know, there's a Holiday Inn, there's a Quality Inn, there's all these independent brands that you see. But when I go on Airbnb or Vrbo, granted, yes, a lot of them are independent operators, you know, second vacation homes, maybe a certain wing or section of a house or spare bedroom, whatever it may be. But it's really hard to put your brand out there because the OTAs, one, will be like, no, Airbnb is not really friendly when it comes to sharing data, allowing you to market yourself. Like everyone, when they book on short-term rental platforms, is usually saying, oh, I'm staying in an Airbnb this weekend. Granted, Airbnb is not cleaning the toilets, they're not folding the laundry, they're not doing anything, they're just really being a distribution platform. So how can, and Golden, this is more directed to you, how have you seen, or how can other operators in that space trying to build their direct booking income and revenue streams, what can they do not against the OTA, but how can they leverage maybe OTAs in order to market themselves better?
Well, Michael already said it. It's the OTA's job to get you the first booking, but if that guest ever comes back to your market, it's up to you to get that second booking. I was at a conference when one of the executives from Expedia spoke one time, and he literally said the exact same thing. Guys, we're there to give you bookings. If you provide a great experience, they'll book with you direct the second time. But if they go to a new market, we're going to find them another new booking. And that's the role of the OTA, is to help travel planners, or whether it's a professional or a single owner or single traveler, find the place they're looking for. And I know for me, and I'm curious if you've ever seen any numbers, any of you guys, but I'm curious the book direct numbers for short-term rentals versus hotels. I only book direct on hotels. Unless I know an operator in the market, I usually book on an OTA for short-term rentals. I'm curious if you guys have ever seen any numbers out there.
And we can always direct this back towards the UK. I know this was kind of like how we started the conversation, and we kind of I got a little carried away. But I would love to hear those numbers too. I think I heard some interesting ones last night in another room. So I'm curious to see what you guys have.
It's again visibility, right? And it's again, as a hotelier, you can build your website. You're investing in a website would cost you something. But if you really are a vacation rental owner, you have a few properties, are you really going to invest in your website visibility, keep it up to date? Most likely not. Often it's a side hustle. It's not your main income, something extra. You got the professional ones. That case, okay, they try to do something, but they know like it's much probably cheaper for many of them just to get there still the reservations too, and especially when you're maybe a property manager, property manager. So okay, I will use the big guy who has a big audience. I will use them, and I have my markup anyway, right? So at the end, it's make their life always easier. And you can see what you said, and also what the big change actually saying why they're working still with large OTAs. Make sure that they have a great experience, and then we can convert them into our loyal member, or make sure they book directly. And that's what the big change, and your favorite of Michael is also saying, okay, make sure that next time they come directly, and then it's fine. Then you're paying whatever your commission, your 15-20%, because next time it's not needed, and it's one-time acquisition cost what we have to get a member.
And to answer your question, Will, like how can a single owner or a small property manager do this? There's Wi-Fi splash pages that you gather all of the guests' information, not just the this booker. And in order for them to connect, they give you their name, their email address, and bam, you've got them. Now you build a drip campaign and you add all of your guests in there again and offer a discount for repeat booking, right? Like, pretty straightforward. A lot of people don't do it though. Very, very few people use a splash page Wi-Fi login, which can, like, it's easy to get the primary booker's information. It's hard to get the 6 other people that are staying there.
True. Very true. Christian, do you have any data on your end, my friend?
Well, we were talking earlier about sustainability and efficiency. So I do have another really cool point that was made up during I Meet Hotel UK. We were talking about, and as we were talking about earlier about if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This, I guess you can say things have changed in our times now with mobile technologies. So this is something sooner or later you're going to have to get into in the future. And this is one of our speakers were talking about just paper waste, for example. And she brought up a fact that 15 of New York City's central parks, if they were full of forests, need to be cut down for one hotel's year use of paper to assign tasks. I'm not talking about registration. I'm just talking about paper that's in the hotel, printing out whatever, maybe schedules, you name it. Just tasks, which hotel rooms need to be clean, when they need to be clean, the sign-off forms, the check forms, all these different things. So you can eliminate that, going to these mobile technologies. And there's a lot of proven mobile technologies out there that have been developed in the last couple of years that have proven. Another point that she made was that, just on printing, how much hotels you spend per year, and that the cost now per milliliter for printer ink is more expensive than the perfume Chanel No. 5. So you think about these different costs that are going into there. And one other point that I want to bring up is she also brought up some data about the receptionist and how many people pick up the phone to answer a guest inquiry.
Yeah.
So for example, a hotel full of 30 guests, they're each guest is looking for a towel, wants room service, wants to know when the concierge is open, whatever it may be. They spend, let's just say 30 of those calls, 2 minutes per call. That's 60 minutes a day at, $12 an hour that reception is making for 365 days. That's $4,300 that they're just picking up the phone saying, oh yeah, we can send you up a towel, or, oh yeah, we'll set your wake up call at 9 o'clock, where these systems with these proven technologies can eliminate that. So you imagine that's 30 rooms. Imagine if you have 300 rooms, and how much that can add up per year.
Yeah.
But that's often, right? That I just thinking that implementing technology is actually, it's in a cost, but just people don't realize often it's a cost saver, right? That's what you say. Even contactless, yes, but I have to change my locks and everything. Yes, but nobody has to go there, just give you the physical key. There's a lot of things. And an example, what Christian just said, like why in that have this concierge app. There's so many simple solutions out there. Just use it, test it, and see if it works for you. And unfortunately, many hoteliers or properties, okay, I have to invest in this case, but they don't think what you just make the calculation. It doesn't on long term, even after a year, you just already have for sure your money back. So
and to go off the top of that as well, not only that is that you're getting rid of all this different waste that you normally would have. Then you can apply for eco labels like Green Key or whatever they may be, because this is another huge trend that we also brought up in Destination UK, is that people looking for those filters for sustainable hotels, eco-friendly hotels, or rentals for that matter. So I think, you can pretty much knock 2 birds out with 1 stone, save costs, and then, get onto these different filters that are becoming more trending.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap up, there's finally some favorable news coming out of the UK from Prime Minister Boris, where by March, the UK expects, or at least England expects, to be fully back to normal. There's still some questions on does Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland also comply with the same kind of rules. I don't fully understand all of the UK, England politics myself, but I was on a call with the Scottish Short-Term Lets Association last week, and one of the local PMSs said the minute Boris made that announcement, they had, for the next 3 days, a booking every 5 seconds came in for 3 days straight, just back to back to back to back, which is people are pent up. People are ready to travel.
Yeah.
Most of, I think 80% were local bookings, but 20% were international. And I'm planning to go to Scotland in July, but I think after that news, I'm way more confident that it's actually possible than I was the week prior. So, do you have the graph, Will?
Yeah.
What we're seeing is still a preference towards short-term rentals in London. Makes sense. I would imagine a lot of the last-minute travelers might skew more towards hotels than short-term rentals, but significantly higher by July, over 50% occupancy, which I think in London 80 or so was about the norm. So still pacing pretty far off of the mean, but favorable signs. I mean, it's up and to the right, which is what we want to see.
Yeah.
Well,
Totally
I'm curious about the countrysides, because I think even the countryside is doing better, right? It's still in a pandemic like this. Do you really want to stay in a city center? Probably less interesting. So I think if you're looking at I'm curious about the numbers of the countrysides and everything. I think it will be even more promising. So
Yeah.
For sure.
No, we'll have to do a part 2 to this episode and see what the actual numbers are and a little bit more dive in the depth of the details. But I think hopefully we're all on the same page that this is a positive sign. And as short-term rentals and hotels start to professionalize and take this time off that they've had, we see a little bit of shift in ops and of course guest experience. And so it'll be quite interesting to dive into episode part 2 for this one. But if you guys have anything else, anything going on, you guys excited for, obviously spring in Alabama, anything going on in Krakow, you guys looking forward to?
we're working on really, really interesting stuff. It's busy, and you can see we're developing so many things also regarding connectivity, regarding new partnerships, new hotels who are just onboarding. So it's a really busy period for us, actually. And of course, we just see a small increase of bookings coming, of course, and so just preparing ourselves and make everything better and better, and excited for this coming, and hopefully that things become a bit back to normal. I think the signs of the UK makes me happy. I just said my daughter's for 1 year at school. She can't wait to also have a bit normal life again, right? So just hope that things will come back to normal, and let's do what we all love so much, is traveling.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we'll hopefully soon, maybe this year, even do an episode of Good Morning Hospitality together in person and in real life.
Sounds so cool.
Awesome. All right. Well, see you guys next week. And thank you, everybody who's been watching on the live.